Now, I can imagine that there are some of you here tonight who are silently thinking that all of these arguments for God's existence are well and good, but are ultimately just so much labor lost. For don't we live, after all, in a postmodern culture in which appeals to such apologetic arguments are no longer effective, since postmodernists reject the traditional canons of logic, rationality, and truth? Rational arguments for the truth of the Christian faith no longer are supposed to work. Rather, in today's culture, we should just share our narrative and invite people to participate in it. I believe that this sort of thinking is guilty of a disastrous misdiagnosis of contemporary culture. The idea that we live in a postmodern culture is a myth perpetrated in our churches by misguided youth pastors. In fact, a postmodern culture is an impossibility. It would be utterly unlivable. Nobody is a postmodernist when it comes to reading the labels on a bottle of aspirin and a box of rat poison. If you got a headache, you better believe that texts have objective meaning. People are not relativistic when it comes to matters of science, technology, and engineering. Rather, they are relativistic and pluralistic when it comes to religion and ethics. But of course, that's not postmodernism. That's modernism. That's just old line verificationism, which says that if you can't verify it by your five senses, then it's just a matter of personal taste and emotive expression. Our culture remains deeply modernist at heart. Otherwise, how do you make sense out of the popularity of the new atheism? Dawkins and his ilk are indelibly modernist and even scientistic in their approach. On the postmodernist reading of contemporary culture, their books should have fallen like water on a stone. Instead, they have been lapped up eagerly by people who are convinced that religious belief is folly and has nothing going for it intellectually. Seen in this light, the idea that we should tailor our proclamation of the gospel to a postmodern culture is a siren song for the church's destruction. Your old arguments are no longer effective, we're told. Lay them aside. They're of no use. Just share your narrative. And so we are deceived into voluntarily laying aside our most effective weapons of logic and evidence, thereby ensuring unawares modernism's triumph over us. If the church adopts this suicidal course of action, then the consequences in the next generation will be catastrophic. Christianity will be reduced to just one more voice in a cacophony of competing voices, each one sharing its narrative, and none of them claiming to commend itself as the objective truth about reality, while scientific naturalism continues to shape our culture's view of how the world really is. I believe that a robust natural theology may well be necessary in order for the gospel to be effectively heard in 21st century Canadian society.